Jake Morrison stared at the legal document in his hands, reading it for the third time. His Aunt Elena was dead, and somehow she had left him everything she owned. This made no sense at all. He had not seen Elena in 15 years. She was his father's sister, a strange woman who studied old alien ruins on distant planets. Most of the family thought she was crazy. Jake remembered her as someone who talked about ancient civilizations that nobody else believed in. The lawyer sitting across from him was a thin man with gray hair. He looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Morrison, I know this is unexpected. Your aunt left very specific instructions. She wanted you to have her research station and all her belongings." Jake put the papers down on the desk. "I don't understand. Why me? We barely knew each other. She said you would understand when the time came." The lawyer handed him another folder. "These are the coordinates to her research station on New Geneva. There's also a ship waiting for you there." "A ship?" Jake raised his eyebrows. He had been a cargo pilot for the Earth Defense Force until last month. Ships were expensive, and Elena had never seemed like she had much money. According to her notes, it's an old alien vessel she discovered during her research. She spent years trying to fix it. The lawyer looked at his watch. "I'm sorry, but I have another appointment. The transport to New Geneva leaves tomorrow if you want to claim your inheritance." Jake walked out of the office feeling confused. Elena had died in some kind of accident at her research station. The official report said it was a power failure, but Jake wondered if there was more to the story. He went back to his small apartment and looked up everything he could find about Elena's work. Most of it was academic papers about something called Forerunner artifacts. These were supposed to be remains from an ancient alien race, but most scientists thought they were just natural rock formations. The next morning, Jake caught the transport to New Geneva. It was a 3-day journey to the outer colony. During the trip, he tried to figure out why Elena had left everything to him. They had only met a few times when he was a child. She had always seemed interested in his questions about space and aliens, but that was all he could remember. New Geneva was a cold, rocky planet with a small mining colony. Elena's research station was 50 miles from the main settlement, sitting alone in a valley between two mountains. When Jake arrived, he found a simple building with living quarters and a laboratory. Everything was covered in dust. It looked like nobody had been there for weeks. Jake found Elena's research notes scattered across her desk. Most of it was about alien languages and star maps. There were also photos of strange symbols carved into rocks. Behind the main building, Jake found a large hangar. Inside was the most unusual spaceship he had ever seen. It was about the size of a small cargo vessel, but its design was completely different from any human or known alien technology. The ship's hull was made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to change color when he looked at it from different angles. It had smooth, curved lines instead of the sharp edges that human ships usually had. There were no visible engines or weapons, but Jake could see damage along one side where metal plates had been torn away. Jake walked around the ship, trying to understand what he was looking at. According to Elena's notes, she called it Wanderer. She had found it crashed on an uninhabited moon and spent 5 years bringing it to New Geneva piece by piece. He found an open hatch on the ship's side and climbed inside. The interior was even stranger than the outside. The walls seemed to be made of the same color-changing metal, and there were no sharp corners anywhere. Everything curved and flowed together like it had been grown instead of built. The control room had a single chair facing a large, dark screen. When Jake sat down, lights suddenly appeared under his hands. The screen flickered to life, showing symbols he could not read. Then, to his amazement, the symbols changed into English letters. "Navigation system active" appeared on the screen. "Genetic scan complete. Welcome, descendant of Elena Vasquez." Jake jumped out of the chair. The screen went dark again. His heart was beating fast. How did the ship know about Elena? And how did it scan his genetics? He found Elena's personal journal on a small table near the pilot's chair. The last entry was dated just 1 week before her death. "The ship is finally responding to me," she had written. "After 5 years, it recognizes my presence, but I think it's waiting for someone else. Someone in our family line. The genetic markers it needs are not quite right in me." I believe it's waiting for Jake. He has the right combination of genes from both sides of our family. I must prepare him for what's coming. Jake read the entry 3 more times. Elena had planned this. She knew something was going to happen to her and she wanted Jake to have the ship. But why? What was so special about his genes? He spent the rest of the day exploring the ship. Most of the systems seemed damaged or inactive. The engines would not start, and life support was barely working. But the navigation system kept turning on whenever he sat in the pilot's chair. That evening, Jake called his former commander, Lisa Park, using Elena's communication system. Her face appeared on the screen, looking concerned. "Jake, I heard about your aunt. I'm sorry for your loss." "Thanks, Lisa. I need some advice. She left me an alien ship, but it's pretty much broken. Should I just sell it for scrap?" Lisa frowned. "What kind of alien ship? There aren't many of those around." Jake described the Wanderer and showed her some pictures he had taken. Lisa's expression grew more serious as she looked at them. "Jake, I've never seen anything like this. The design doesn't match any known alien technology. You should bring it back to Earth and let our scientists look at it. It's too damaged to fly. I would need major repairs just to get it off the ground. Then get it repaired. Something tells me this ship is more important than it looks. Don't scrap it yet." After ending the call, Jake sat in the ship's control room again. The navigation screen showed him star maps of nearby systems. But some of the stars were marked with symbols he did not recognize. There were also routes marked between stars that seemed to go through empty space. Jake realized that Elena had left him more than just a broken ship. She had left him a mystery that might change everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. But first, he needed to find someone who could help him fix the Wanderer and unlock its secrets. As he prepared to leave the research station the next morning, Jake made a decision. He would not scrap the ship. Instead, he would find a way to repair it and discover what Elena had really found. Something told him that his aunt's death was connected to this strange vessel, and he was determined to learn the truth. Jake knew exactly who to call for help. Zara Chen had been his best friend since they were kids, and now she was one of the best engineers in the outer colonies. If anyone could figure out how to fix the Wanderer, it was her. He found her working at a repair station on Titan Base, 3 systems away from New Geneva. When he explained what he had inherited, Zara was immediately interested. "An unknown alien ship? Jake, this could be the discovery of a lifetime," she said over the video call. "I have some vacation time saved up. Send me the technical data you've collected." 2 weeks later, Zara arrived at New Geneva with a cargo ship full of repair equipment. She was a small woman with dark hair and hands that were always stained with grease. She had been fixing machines since she was 12 years old. When Zara saw the Wanderer for the first time, she stood completely still for 5 minutes. She walked around the ship slowly, touching the hull and examining every detail. "Jake, this technology is incredible," she finally said. "Look at these joint connections. The metal seems to be self-repairing, and these energy conduits are more advanced than anything humans have built." They spent the next 3 days working on the ship's basic systems. Zara was amazed by how the ship's components fit together. Everything was designed to work as one connected system, unlike human ships that had separate parts bolted together. "It's like the whole ship is alive," Zara said as she worked on the power distribution system. "When I fix one part, other parts seem to adjust automatically." Jake had noticed the same thing. When they got the life support working properly, the navigation system became more responsive. When they fixed some of the hull damage, the internal lighting got brighter. After a week of repairs, they had basic life support, limited propulsion, and communication systems working. The ship could fly, but most of its advanced systems were still locked behind security protocols they could not understand. "We need more information about who built this ship," Zara said. "Maybe we should talk to some alien traders. They might know something about this technology." Jake remembered hearing about an information broker who worked out of Crossroads Station, a trading post where humans and aliens did business. The broker was an insectoid alien called Kethvar, who supposedly knew everything that happened in this part of the galaxy. They flew the Wanderer to Crossroads Station, which took 2 days with their limited engine power. The station was a huge metal structure that spun slowly in space. Ships from dozens of different species were docked at its many ports. Kethvar worked out of a dark office filled with data storage devices. He was 7 feet tall with 6 arms and large compound eyes. When he spoke, his voice sounded like clicking insects. "Human pilot," Kethvar said when they entered his office. "What information do you seek?" Jake showed him pictures of the Wanderer on a portable screen. Kethvar's reaction was immediate and dramatic. All 6 of his arms started moving at once and he made excited clicking sounds. "Where did you get images of a Forerunner vessel?" Kethvar demanded. "These ships have not been seen for thousands of years." "Forerunners?" Jake asked. "What are Forerunners?" Kethvar's large eyes focused on Jake. "You truly do not know. The Forerunners were the first intelligent species to travel between stars. They built the original hyperspace routes that we all use today. Then they vanished, leaving only legends and a few artifacts." Zara leaned forward. "Are you saying this ship is thousands of years old?" "If it is truly a Forerunner vessel, then yes. But most scientists believe the Forerunners are just myths. No one has ever found a complete ship." Kethvar moved closer, to the screen. "May I ask where you obtained this vessel?" Jake explained about Elena's inheritance and how they had found the ship on New Geneva. Kethvar listened carefully, occasionally making soft clicking sounds. "Your aunt was very lucky, or very unlucky," Kethvar said. "Forerunner ships are said to contain the secrets of the deep routes." "What are the deep routes?" Zara asked. Kethvar's voice became quieter. "Ancient hyperspace pathways that could cross the entire galaxy in days instead of months. The current galactic powers would kill to possess such technology. If word spreads that you have a Forerunner ship, you will be in great danger." As if, responding to their conversation, Jake felt a strange vibration through the floor. His portable screen suddenly came alive with new data from the Wanderer's computers. The screen showed a 3-dimensional star map, unlike anything Jake had ever seen. It displayed not just local star systems, but what looked like routes connecting distant parts of the galaxy. Some of the routes went to systems that were not on any modern star chart. "By the ancient hives," Kethvar whispered. "The ship is active. It is showing you the deep routes." Jake stared at the map. One particular route was highlighted in bright blue, leading from their current location to a system that appeared to be completely empty space according to normal star charts. "Why is it showing us this now?" Jake asked. "Forerunner ships are said to choose their pilots," Kethvar explained. "Perhaps it has decided you are worthy of its knowledge. But you must be very careful. 3 major powers in this galaxy have searched for Forerunner technology for centuries." Kethvar told them about the Hegemony, a military alliance that wanted to use Forerunner tech to conquer other species. There was also the Collective, a hive mind race that wanted to absorb all advanced technology. The third group, called the Preservers, claimed to be the rightful inheritors of Forerunner knowledge. "All 3 factions have spies throughout the galaxy," Kethvar warned. "If they learn about your ship, they will come for you." Jake and Zara returned to the Wanderer with much to think about. The ship's navigation system was now showing multiple route options, each leading to different parts of the galaxy. One route in particular kept flashing as if the ship wanted them to choose it. "What do you think, Jake?" Zara asked as they stood in the control room. "Should we follow where the ship wants to take us?" Jake looked at the star map. Elena had spent years studying this ship. She must have known about the deep routes and the danger they represented, but she had still left the ship to him. She wanted him to discover something. "Elena didn't give me this ship just to keep it hidden," Jake said. "She wanted me to use it, but we should let Earth Defense Force know what we're doing." Jake sent a message to Commander Park, explaining what they had learned from Kethvar. Her response came back quickly and was not encouraging. "Jake, under no circumstances should you activate any alien technology you don't understand. Return to Earth immediately for a full investigation." But as Jake read the message, the Wanderer's engines suddenly powered up on their own. The ship was preparing to jump to hyperspace, following the route it had been showing them. "Zara, the ship is starting up by itself," Jake called out. Zara ran to the engine room and came back looking worried. I can't shut it down. It's like the ship has made its own decision. Jake felt the familiar feeling of a hyperspace jump beginning. But this was different from normal hyperspace travel. Instead of the usual blue tunnel, they were surrounded by swirling patterns of light that seemed to pulse with energy. The jump lasted only minutes instead of the usual hours. When they emerged, they found themselves in a star system that should not have existed. According to their instruments, they were thousands of light years from their starting point. 3 planets orbited a yellow sun, and all 3 showed signs of artificial structures on their surfaces. But there were no energy readings, no radio signals, no signs of current life. Jake, Zara said quietly, I think we just found one of the Forerunner worlds. The Wanderer's navigation system displayed a message in English. Welcome to Archive Station Alpha. Genetic scan confirmed. Access granted to Jake Morrison, descendant of the Seeker bloodline. Jake stared at the message. Seeker bloodline? What does that mean? Before Zara could answer, they detected something on their sensors. A ship was approaching from the edge of the system. It was not human, and it was not broadcasting any identification signals. I think our secret just got out, Jake said, as he watched the unknown ship moving toward them. The ship was sleek and dangerous-looking, with weapon ports clearly visible along its hull. Jake realized that Kethvar had been right about the danger. Someone had been watching them, and now they were about to face the consequences of possessing Forerunner technology. The Wanderer's communication system crackled to life with an incoming message. Human vessel, you are in possession of stolen Forerunner technology. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Jake looked at Zara. Their simple inheritance had just become a matter of life and death. The alien ship moved closer to the Wanderer, its weapons clearly aimed at them. Jake's hands moved quickly over the control panel, but most of the ship's systems were still beyond his understanding. Can we run? Zara asked from the engineering station. I don't know how, Jake replied. The ship brought us here on its own. I'm not sure I can make it leave. The communication system crackled again. This is Commander Vextar of the Hegemony Fleet. You have 30 seconds to power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Jake had heard of the Hegemony before. They were a military alliance of several alien species that believed in expansion through conquest. If they got their hands on Forerunner technology, they would use it to attack other civilizations. 20 seconds, human. Suddenly, the Wanderer's controls came alive under Jake's hands. New displays appeared, showing him options he could understand. The ship was helping him. Hold on, Zara, Jake said as he selected what looked like an evasive maneuver. The Wanderer moved like no ship Jake had ever piloted. Instead of the sluggish responses of human vessels, it reacted instantly to his thoughts. They dodged the first volley of energy blasts from the Hegemony ship with ease. How are you doing that? Zara asked as they twisted through space. I'm not sure. The ship seems to be reading my intentions. More Hegemony ships appeared at the edge of the system. Jake counted at least 6 vessels, all larger and more heavily armed than the Wanderer, but the Forerunner ship had other advantages. A new navigation option appeared on Jake's screen. It showed a route that led deeper into the system, toward the 3 planets they had detected. Jake chose it without hesitation. The Wanderer accelerated toward the nearest planet at a speed that should have crushed them both, but somehow they felt no pressure. The ship's gravity systems were more advanced than anything humans had developed. They're following us, Zara reported from her sensors. Jake guided them into the planet's atmosphere. Below them spread the ruins of a vast city. The buildings were made of the same flowing, organic-looking material as the Wanderer. Everything was connected by graceful bridges and curved pathways. The Hegemony ships followed them down, but as they entered the atmosphere, something unexpected happened. Energy barriers flickered to life around the ruins, and the alien ships found themselves unable to get closer. Warning, came a voice from the Hegemony commander. You have entered a protected archaeological site. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. But Jake could see that the Hegemony ships were also having trouble with the energy barriers. Whatever was protecting this place was keeping all armed vessels away. The Wanderer landed smoothly in what looked like a docking area designed specifically for it. The moment they touched down, Jake felt a change in the ship's systems. More controls became active and the navigation displays showed dozens of new route options. "Jake, look at this," Zara called from her station. "I'm getting massive energy readings from all over this planet. There are active systems everywhere, but they've been dormant until now." Jake studied the new navigation data. The Deep Roots network was much larger than they had imagined. It connected hundreds of star systems across the galaxy, including many that were completely unknown to current civilization. They decided to explore the ruins while the hegemony ships waited in orbit. Jake and Zara put on environmental suits and left the Wanderer. The moment Jake stepped onto the alien ground, lights began appearing along the pathways, as if the city was welcoming him. The buildings were massive but felt welcoming rather than intimidating. Everything was designed on a scale that could accommodate many different species. They found libraries with information stored in crystal matrices, laboratories with equipment that still functioned after thousands of years, and living quarters that could adapt to the needs of any inhabitant. In the center of the city, they discovered a chamber that seemed to be waiting for them. When Jake entered, a holographic figure appeared. It looked humanoid but was clearly not human, with elongated limbs and features that seemed both ancient and wise. "Welcome, Seeker Descendant," the figure said in perfect English. "I am a memory echo of the Forerunner archives. We have been waiting for your bloodline to activate our network." "What is the Seeker bloodline?" Jake asked. "Your ancestor Elena was part of a group of humans who discovered Forerunner artifacts decades ago. They were marked by our technology as potential inheritors. The genetic markers have been passed down through your family." The hologram gestured, and the chamber filled with images of the galaxy. "The Forerunners created this network as a safeguard. We foresaw a great threat approaching from beyond this galaxy. The Deep Roots and Archive worlds were designed to preserve knowledge and provide refuge for worthy civilizations." Zara stepped forward. "What kind of threat?" "They are called the Devourers. They consume entire star systems, converting all matter and energy into more of themselves. They destroyed our original civilization, but we transcended physical form before they could reach us. The network is our legacy and your inheritance." Jake felt overwhelmed. "Why humans? Why my family?" "Humans possess a unique ability to adapt and unify different species. You do not seek to dominate others, but to build alliances. This makes you ideal guardians of the network." The hologram showed them how the deep routes worked. They were not just faster methods of travel, but stable pathways through dimensions that the Devourers could not follow. Each archive world contained the preserved knowledge of extinct civilizations, waiting to be shared with those who proved worthy. However, the hologram continued, activating the full network will attract the attention of those who would misuse it. You must choose carefully who to trust. As if summoned by those words, alarms began sounding throughout the city. Zara checked her portable scanner and looked worried. "Jake, there are more ships arriving, lots of them." They rushed back to the Wanderer and saw the situation had become much worse. The hegemony fleet had grown to 12 ships, but they were not alone. A second fleet of strange, organic-looking vessels had arrived. These belonged to the Collective, the hive mind species that wanted to absorb all technology. A third group of ships appeared, these ones ancient-looking but still functional. They bore symbols that matched some of the markings in the Forerunner city. "Three-way standoff," Jake observed. "Each faction wants the technology for themselves." The communication system activated with multiple incoming signals. Commander Vexter of the hegemony was demanding surrender. The Collective was broadcasting absorption threats. The third faction, which called itself the Preservers, claimed to be the rightful inheritors of Forerunner knowledge. "This is getting complicated fast," Zara said. Jake made a decision. Instead of responding to any of the factions, he activated the Wanderer's deep route navigation. If the ship could bring them here, maybe it could take them somewhere safer. "Where are we going?" Zara asked as the ship prepared for another dimensional jump. Jake selected a route that led to a system marked as Sanctuary Alpha on the Forerunner charts. "Somewhere we can figure out what to do next." The Wanderer jumped through the deep routes again, leaving the 3 alien fleets behind. But Jake knew they had not escaped the problem. Word would spread quickly that humans had activated Forerunner technology, Soon every major power in the galaxy would be looking for them. They emerged in another system with multiple habitable worlds. This one was different from the first archive world. Instead of ruins, they found active cities with multiple species living and working together. But the cities were small, as if this place was meant to be a refuge rather than a major population center. "Welcome to Sanctuary Alpha," the Wanderer's computer announced. "This facility is designed to house refugees from galactic conflicts. Current population, 847 individuals from 23 species." Jake and Zara exchanged glances. They had found a hidden civilization, a place where different species lived in peace under Forerunner protection. A small shuttle approached them with a message. "Welcome, Wanderer pilot. We have been expecting you. Please dock at Station 7 for orientation." As they followed the shuttle's directions, Jake realized that Elena's inheritance had led them to something much bigger than a single ship. They had discovered a secret network that could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. But with that discovery came enormous responsibility. The three factions pursuing them would not give up easily. Soon, Jake would have to decide whether to keep the network hidden or share its benefits with the galaxy. The question was, could humanity handle the responsibility of guarding the Forerunner's legacy? And more importantly, could Jake handle being the one to make that choice? The shuttle guided them to a docking bay where representatives from various alien species waited to greet them. Jake realized that his quiet life as a cargo pilot was over, forever. He was now at the center of events that would determine the future of galactic civilization. As they prepared to meet the sanctuary's inhabitants, alarms began sounding again. The three pursuing fleets had somehow tracked them to this location. The sanctuary was no longer safe, and Jake would have to make some difficult decisions very quickly. The sanctuary's defense systems activated as the three hostile fleets approached. Energy shields covered the inhabited areas, and ancient weapon platforms that had been hidden in asteroids came online. Jake watched in amazement as technology, that was thousands of years old, responded to the threat. "Wanderer pilot," came a voice over the communication system. "This is Sanctuary Commander Maya Torres. We need to talk immediately." Jake was surprised to hear a human voice. Commander Torres met them at the docking bay, and Jake was even more surprised to see that she was young, probably not much older than him. "You're human," Zara said, stating the obvious. "There are about 50 of us here," Maya explained as she led them through corridors filled with beings from many different species. "We're refugees from various conflicts, but also researchers studying Forerunner technology. When the Wanderer's activation signal reached us, we knew the network was finally awakening." They entered a command center where humans and aliens worked together, monitoring the approaching fleets. Large screens showed the three groups of ships taking positions around the system. "How long have you been here?" Jake asked. "My family came here 20 years ago when I was a child," Maya said. "My parents were researchers who discovered a Forerunner artifact on Earth. They were being hunted by government agents who wanted to weaponize their discovery, so they escaped through a hidden deep route." Maya showed them what the sanctuary's long-range sensors had detected. "The situation is worse than you know. The hegemony has called in their entire battle fleet. The collective is sending reinforcement ships from their home systems. And the preservers are activating ancient warships that have been hidden throughout the galaxy." Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. "This is all because of the Wanderer?" "Not just the ship," Maya explained. "You've awakened the entire Forerunner network. Every archive world, every sanctuary, every hidden base is coming online for the first time in thousands of years. And something else is happening too." She led them to another room where scientists were studying long-range sensor data. Dr. Nina Foster, a xenobiologist who had been at the sanctuary for 15 years, looked up from her work with a grim expression. "Show them the deep space scans," Maya said. Dr. Foster activated a three-dimensional display that showed the edge of their galaxy. At the very rim, moving slowly but steadily inward, was something that Jake's mind could barely comprehend. It looked like a dark cloud, but the sensors showed it was made of ships, millions and millions of ships. "The Devourers," Dr. Foster said quietly. The Forerunner hologram was right. They're already here at the galaxy's edge. They've been consuming outer systems for months, but the news hasn't reached the inner worlds yet. Jake stared at the display. Each dot in the dark cloud represented a ship larger than anything humans had ever built. There were so many of them that they blocked out the light from distant stars. How long before they reach inhabited systems? Zara asked. At their current rate of advance, maybe 2 years, Dr. Foster replied. But they're accelerating as they consume more matter. They turn everything they encounter into more ships, more weapons, more devourers. Maya pulled up another display showing the Forerunner network. This is why the network exists. The deep roots can move entire populations to safety. The archive. Worlds can preserve the knowledge of destroyed civilizations, but it all depends on having someone who can operate the master controls. And that's supposed to be me? Jake asked. The Wanderer chose you, Maya said. More importantly, the network's central AI has been analyzing your decisions. It approves of how you've handled the situation so far. Alarms suddenly sounded throughout the command center. The 3 fleets had stopped fighting each other and were forming a combined assault formation. They're working together now. One of the alien technicians reported. All 3 factions are targeting the sanctuary. Jake realized that the discovery of the Devourer threat had changed everything. Even traditional enemies were willing to cooperate to get their hands on technology that might save them. We need to evacuate, Maya said. The sanctuary's defenses are strong, but they can't hold off 3 entire fleets. But as the evacuation began, Jake made a different choice. He returned to the Wanderer and accessed its navigation systems. Instead of looking for escape routes, he searched for something else. The location of the network's central control facility. Jake, what are you doing? Zara asked as she followed him aboard. The hologram said I have to choose who to trust with this technology, Jake said. Maybe it's time to stop running and start making some real decisions. The Wanderer's navigation system showed him what he was looking for. At the center of the galaxy, hidden in a nebula that normal ships could not penetrate, was the Forerunner, Capital World. The network's master control systems were there, waiting for someone worthy to claim them. Maya Torres came aboard with several sanctuary refugees, including Dr. Foster and a few specialists who understood Forerunner technology. If you're planning what I think you're planning, you'll need help, she said. Jake activated the deep route navigation, but this time he sent a signal to every Forerunner facility in the network. He opened communication channels to all 3, pursuing fleets and broadcast a message. This is Jake Morrison, pilot of the Forerunner vessel Wanderer. I know you all want this technology. I also know that the Devourers are coming. If we fight each other, we all die. If we work together, we might survive. Commander Vextar of the Hegemony responded first. Humans are too primitive to control Forerunner technology. Surrender it to those capable of using it properly. The collective's response was predictable. All advanced technology must be integrated into the collective consciousness for optimal efficiency. Resistance is futile. The preservers were more diplomatic. We are the chosen inheritors of Forerunner knowledge. We have waited millennia for this moment. Jake ignored their demands and continued his broadcast. The Forerunners left this network for all of us to use, not for any one species to control. I'm going to the network's central command facility. Anyone who wants to help defend the galaxy is welcome to follow. Anyone who just wants to fight can stay here and argue about it. The Wanderer jumped into the deep roots, heading for the galaxy's core. To Jake's surprise, not all of the alien ships tried to follow. About half of each fleet stayed behind, but the others chose to accompany him. The journey through the deep routes was different this time. Jake could feel the network responding to his intentions, opening pathways that had been closed for thousands of years. The Wanderer was no longer just a ship. It was his connection to the greatest transportation and communication system ever built. When they emerged from the final jump, Jake found himself looking at something that took his breath away. The Forerunner capital world hung in space like a jewel, surrounded by artificial rings that contained entire cities. But more impressive than the planet itself was what surrounded it. Thousands of ships were already there, waiting. Some were ancient Forerunner vessels that had been hidden throughout the galaxy. Others were modern ships from dozens of different species, all those who had received Jake's message and chosen cooperation over conquest. "Welcome to the heart of the network," the Wanderer's computer announced. "Please proceed to the central spire for full system activation." As they approached the planet, Jake realized that this was the moment everything would change. Once he activated the network's master controls, there would be no going back. Humanity would become the galaxy's guardians, whether they were ready or not. But looking at the Devourer fleet advancing at the galaxy's edge, Jake knew they had no choice. The time for hiding and running was over. It was time to stand and fight for the survival of every living thing in their galaxy. The central spire of the Forerunner capital world reached so high into space that its top disappeared into the stars. As the Wanderer docked at the spire's base, Jake felt the weight of countless civilizations watching him. The ships that had followed him here represented dozens of species, all hoping he would make the right choice. Maya Torres and Dr. Foster accompanied Jake and Zara into the spire. The interior was vast beyond imagination, with corridors that seemed to stretch forever, and chambers large enough to hold entire cities. But despite its size, the spire felt welcoming, as if it had been waiting for them. At the center of the spire, they found the network control chamber. It was a spherical room with no visible floor or ceiling, filled with floating platforms connected by bridges of solid light. At the very center was a single chair, surrounded by holographic displays showing every part of the galaxy. When Jake approached the chair, a familiar figure appeared. The Forerunner hologram from the archive world. "Welcome, Jake Morrison," the hologram said. "I am the Harbinger, the collective consciousness of the Forerunner race. We have been waiting for this moment for 3,000 years. 3,000 years is a long time to wait," Jake said. "Are you sure you picked the right person?" The Harbinger smiled, an expression that seemed strange on its alien features. "We did not pick you, Jake Morrison. You picked yourself through your choices. When faced with power, you chose responsibility. When offered dominance, you chose cooperation. When threatened with destruction, you chose to stand and fight." The Harbinger gestured, and the chamber filled with images of the approaching Devourer fleet. They were closer now, only 18 months from the first inhabited systems. Their dark cloud had grown larger as they consumed more worlds. "The Devourers destroyed our physical civilization," the Harbinger explained. "But we learned something important from that defeat. No single species, no matter how advanced, can stand against them alone. Only unity has a chance of survival." Jake sat in the central chair and immediately felt his consciousness expand. Through the network, he could sense every ship, every world, every living being connected to the Forerunner systems. It was overwhelming at first, but gradually he learned to focus his awareness. "The network is yours to command," the Harbinger said. "You can seal it off and protect only those already connected. You can open it to specific species you trust, or you can make it available to all who prove worthy. Choose carefully. Your decision will determine the fate of the galaxy." Through the network sensors, Jake could see the fleets that had followed him to the capital world. The hegemony ships were powerful, but aggressive. The collective vessels were efficient, but showed no regard for individual life. The Preserver ships were ancient and wise but seemed unwilling to adapt to new situations. But there were also ships from smaller species, traders, explorers, refugees who had come seeking hope rather than conquest. These beings reminded Jake of humanity itself, not the strongest or most advanced, but willing to work together for survival. Alarms suddenly echoed through the chamber. Dr. Foster, monitoring the long-range sensors, looked up with alarm. "Jake, the Devourers just changed course. They're accelerating directly toward us. They know we're here." The Harbinger's expression grew serious. "They have detected the network's activation. The Devourers see it as a threat to their expansion. They will arrive in 6 months, not 18. Jake felt panic rising, but forced himself to stay calm. Through the network, he could sense millions of beings looking to him for leadership. He had 6 months to prepare the galaxy's defense, But first he had to decide who to trust with Forerunner technology. "Show me everything," Jake said to the Harbinger. "Show me what the network can really do." The holographic displays revealed the network's true scope. The deep roots could transport entire fleets instantly across the galaxy. The archive worlds contained weapon designs that could destroy stars. The sanctuary systems could shield entire solar systems from attack. But, most importantly, the network could coordinate the actions of thousands of different species as if they were a single organism. "The Devourers are strong because they are unified," the Harbinger explained. "They share one mind, one purpose. The galaxy's species fight each other instead of the real threat. But with the network, separate species can act as one while maintaining their individual identities." Jake made his choice. Instead of giving the network to any single faction, he opened it to everyone, with conditions. Any species that wanted access to Forerunner technology would have to prove they could work peacefully with others. They would have to contribute ships and resources to the common defense. Most importantly, they would have to accept that the network existed to protect all life, not to serve any one group's ambitions. The reaction was immediate and dramatic. Some ships from each faction departed, unwilling to accept Jake's terms. But many others stayed, including several hegemony commanders who were tired of endless war, collective drones who had somehow developed individual consciousness, and Preserver, scholars who saw wisdom in Jake's approach. Over the following months, Jake worked with Maya Torres and representatives from dozens of species to organize the galaxy's defense. The network allowed them to move ships and supplies instantly between star systems. Archive worlds provided advanced weapons and shield technology. Sanctuary systems became refugee centers for populations evacuated from the Devourer's path. Humanity played a crucial role as coordinators and diplomats. Humans had a talent for understanding different cultures and finding common ground between species that had been enemies for centuries. Jake found himself not just commanding the network, but serving as translator and mediator for an alliance unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. When the Devourers finally arrived, they faced not a collection of separate species fighting independently, but a unified galaxy working as one organism. The first battles were terrible. Entire star systems were lost and billions died. But for every world the Devourers consumed, the Allied forces grew stronger and more coordinated. The turning point came when Jake realized that the Devourers' unity was also their weakness. They could not adapt to unexpected strategies because they all thought the same way. But the Alliance had thousands of different perspectives and could change tactics instantly. Using the deep roots, Jake coordinated attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. While hegemony ships drew the Devourers' attention with frontal assaults, collective drones struck at their supply lines, and Preserver vessels used ancient weapons to disrupt their communications. The war lasted 3 years. In the end, the Devourers were not destroyed but contained, trapped in a region of space surrounded by Forerunner barriers that prevented their expansion. The galaxy was safe but forever changed. Jake remained as the network's coordinator, but he made sure that no single person or species controlled it completely. The Forerunner capital world became the seat of a new galactic council, where all species had equal voices. The deep routes remained open to any civilization that proved it could live in peace with others. Years later, as Jake stood on the observation deck of the central spire, he thought about Elena and the inheritance that had started it all. She had known this day would come somehow. She had prepared him for a responsibility he never could have imagined. Maya Torres joined him at the observation deck, now serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. "Any regrets?" she asked. Jake looked out at the stars where ships from hundreds of species traveled the deep routes in peace. Elena always said that the best inheritances aren't things you receive but opportunities you pass on to others. I think she would be proud. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but for the first time in millions of years, its inhabitants faced the future together. And at the center of it all, a young human pilot who had inherited a broken spaceship had become the guardian of the greatest network ever created. The Wanderer sat in its dock below, no longer just Jake's ship, but a symbol of what could be accomplished when different beings chose cooperation over conquest. Sometimes the most important journeys began not with destinations you planned to reach, but with paths you never expected to follow. Jake Morrison had inherited more than a spaceship from his Aunt Elena. He had inherited the future itself, and he had chosen to share it with the galaxy.